So though you cannot see them out there in cyber world, they are on and they are watching you and they are listening with wide open ears. Today, our forum will be recorded for employees who are unavailable to attend at this hour. It'll be posted internally on our site so that they may have the opportunity to view it at a later date. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to open. We will go in alphabetical order. They will share their vision and their plans for the city of Baton Rouge. We will entertain a few questions that were submitted by employees, and then we ask that you keep your answers to 1 to 2 minutes. Then each candidate will have 1 minute to wrap up, and we'll go in reverse alphabetical order for that. So again, it is an honor to have you all here today, and we know that your schedules are very, very busy, and so we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And so with that, we will go ahead and get started. So Mayor Broome, if you would like to begin with your 5 minutes of your vision. Just a second, Mayor Broome, we'll unmute you.
How about that?
Good.
We're good? Okay.
We're good. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you today. And I, of course, want to thank ExxonMobil. We all know the role that you play here in our economy, creating good paying jobs in East Baton Rouge Parish. But of course, there's some people who don't even realize that you all played a very significant role as we've been responding to this global pandemic. So I definitely want to express my gratitude to ExxonMobil, who stood up and answered the needs of not just only our community, but really communities across the country by reconfiguring your facilities to produce things like hand sanitizer, which were badly needed here and in other places. You know, we're at a crossroads in our city and in our parish, and this election comes amid the worst pandemic, as I said, that our country has seen in over 100 years. So I want to begin by saying to all of you that this city parish, this administration is here for you. We're praying for you. And I believe that better days are ahead for all of us. I know the pandemic has been hard on businesses in our area, and I can assure you that next to health and the safety of our citizens, our economic recovery is certainly one of my top priorities. You know, 4 years ago, I assumed this office during a time that was considered one of the most difficult in the Capital Region's history, recovering from a 1,000-year flood that almost left us financially challenged, to rebuilding our legally mandated cash reserves, to racial tensions in the aftermath of the killing of Alton Sterling and the assassination of our brave men in uniform. And so that was a very challenging time in 2016, which entered into 2017. Our traffic woes, our drainage woes were part of the agenda as I went in as mayor in 2017. And I heard the concerns of our growing petrochemical industry, and I fully understood that our continued growth as a hub for this industry was strongly tied to the future of our infrastructure system. And so my goal was and is to be responsive in the needs of the city and parish, and we did that. Nowhere is that more evident and more clear than the creation of our MOVE EBR program. During my first term, as you all are aware, I brought together business and industry citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish to implement the largest infrastructure investment in parish history, a $1 billion program, which is on track to address everything from walkways to light synchronization to traffic woes and drainage all across our parish. This program is more than just about addressing infrastructure issues. It's about opening up the doors of opportunities for businesses, many of which you all are part of, creating 3,000 jobs in our region. We made sure that MOVE EBR works for everyone, ensuring that 40% of these funds go to women-owned, minority-owned, and small businesses. Public safety is certainly a prevalent topic in our community, and I will address that. We recognize that people are hurting They're living from paycheck to paycheck, wondering if their job is coming back or being eliminated due to COVID-19. And so before the pandemic, we had a coordinated team effort working with our district attorney, Hillermore, Sheriff Sid Gotro, and our police chief, Murphy Paul, working on violent crime rates, which were down over the past 3 years. COVID changed that. It has literally changed everything, but we do have a response. And so with that being said, I will tell you, when it comes to permitting, we've moved the needle. When it comes to our stormwater drainage issues, we've moved the needle. When it comes to transportation and infrastructure, we've moved the needle. And so I will be the first to tell you that whether we're talking about any of these issues or other issues like access to health care or addressing a long overdue fight against blight, our city parish has been making real progress. We do have room to improve. We're still have more work to do, and this pandemic has certainly slowed down some of our progress. But I really believe that the residents of East Baton Rouge are resilient, we're strong, we work together, and we will get to the other side. And so I don't want us to look to the last 20 years of East Baton Rouge Parish. We've got an agenda that sets East Baton Rouge Parish forward on a path for success for the next 20 years. And I look forward to this discussion about the issues that matter to the people who make up the fabric of the Capital Region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Broome. Next up, we will have State Representative C. Denise Marcel. We can unmute you. Just a second.
Okay.
You're good to go.
All right. Good morning. I want to thank you guys for hosting this webinar and for inviting me to participate. I want to commend Exxon as well for the great job that you've been doing with the job training program, which I was a part of when I was on the Metro Council with BRCC. Those are the types of programs that we must continue to have in EBR. And so that, along with the many other things that you do for our economy, whether that's providing jobs or standing up in the pandemic to make the gowns that you guys made, the sanitizer and everything that you all have done. I certainly commend you on those efforts. I do want to say, as a state representative, I've worked with Exxon also, but I want to run to be the mayor of East Baton Rouge Parish because I think I have the ability to lead this parish forward. It's not that I don't think that Baton Rouge is a great city. I just believe that it needs a great leader. And I believe that the challenges that we have regarding crime certainly needs to be addressed. The economy is certainly an issue for me as well. I have what I call the SOS plan, supporting large and small businesses throughout our parish, offering solutions to the infrastructure and the traffic problems that we have. I've served on the Transportation Committee in the House of Representatives. Many of the funds that you're seeing that are going towards the projects, the new exit on I-10, I voted to put those funds there so that we could have those exits. And I think that we have a continued opportunity to work with the state and the federal government to move our city out of the bind that we're in our traffic as it relates to Baton Rouge. And certainly the last of the SOS plan is standing up to crime. Crime in Baton Rouge, I believe, is out of hand. And I think that COVID may have played some part of it. The question is, what do we do to fix that? How do we approach that? I have an unusual approach of dealing with the crime in Baton Rouge. I will lay that plan out. It has to be innovative. You have to lead and not lead with fear. You cannot be afraid to step in and stop certain situations when they happen. One of the things that comes to my mind is the pop-up parties that was on Plank Road that we had such an issue with, and many of the residents could not get to their homes. We cannot allow these types of events to go on in the city of Baton Rouge without standing up and stopping them. And I'm willing to do those things. as it relates to crime. As it relates to ExxonMobil, I certainly want to continue the things that I've supported with you guys creating jobs, as I've said before, and doing what you do in the economy. I know that there will be some issues that will maybe come up or questions about the tax incentives, and I'm willing to talk about those as well. I'm C. Denise Marcel. I'm number 90 on your ballot, and I'm asking for your support.
Thank you so much, Representative Marcel. Next up, we will have Mr. Jordan Piazza. We'll make sure you are unmuted before you start. Okay, you're good to go.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. I just have an audio trouble, so I'm going to have to log off. You can't hear me though, right? Okay, great. So I can't hear anyone else unless I call in, so I had to hang up on that. But I'm Jordan Piazza. Thank you all for having me. I'm a lifelong resident of East Baton Rouge Parish, born and raised here, went to University High School here on LSU's campus, and then I attended Louisiana State University where I obtained my bachelor's degree. Since then and during that time, I worked for several folks in the community. Walk On Sports Bistros is the first company I worked for. I worked for them when they had Lasting Concepts, which was the parent company of all the entities they owned. From there, I went to work for Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, which I'm sure many of you are all familiar with it being the Baton Rouge brand. I worked for there for three and a half years and served as Todd Graves, the founder and CEO, his business manager, working directly for him in his political and civic endeavors, his active community involvement, and other different aspects of his life. I also served as executive director of Lemonade Day Louisiana, which is a nonprofit organization that teaches kids how to start, own, and operate their own business, which is a lemonade stand. So I've got some unique experience there. And what has motivated me to run is noticing afterwards I opened, with my brother, I reopened a family business, Phil's Oyster Bar and Seafood Restaurant. I'm sure many of you over the years have dined there. It was on Government Street for 50 years. And we just opened on Perkins in 2016. But my brother and I reopened the business in early 2016, and then we purchased a bar down the street in Uncle Earl's Bar. And what I realized in doing all this is that a lot of my friends and family were fleeing the city, and this has been happening for a long time, and it didn't really take effect until I started getting the business climate until I had a better understanding of why I felt this was happening. And it's motivated me because I think it's very alarming to see the continuous exodus of our friends and families, and they are talented because they don't see the opportunity that's available, and we don't do a very good job of presenting the opportunity. So I think that's a challenge, and that's what's motivating me to get involved. You know, we need a change in leadership. We need someone that comes from the business community that understands the challenges that we're really facing, understands how to combat that. No one else that is running has experience in the business industry solely, and I think that's important because when you know how to run and operate a business, like times like COVID, when you're shut down and government are putting extreme restrictions on you, it's tough to survive that. And so being able to successfully run and operate different businesses and also be a part of the businesses that have been successful, continue to grow worldwide, has enabled me a unique perspective on how to be successful in controlling, large budgets, if you will. And so one of the things that, I think we need is we have to get more aggressive in our recruiting. As Exxon has mentioned that, our business climate is not the easiest and very predictable. And so we've got to work on how we're going to recruit businesses, and we got to aggressively do that. I know with the recent ITEP issue, our council was not very and administration didn't work hard to ensure that passed. Exxon has given, is a great example of a business that has given so much to the community for decades and continuing to want to continue that. However, we have to look past Exxon and work with Exxon to ensure they don't go anywhere. They're here forever. But we also have to recruit new industries, because new industries is going to make it easier for us to give these type of exemptions to Exxon and other industries when we have more business participating in our economy. And the only way to really do that is to be aggressive in the recruitment of these businesses. And we have to stop having a reactive approach and have a more of a proactive approach of how we're going to go get those businesses. An example I use often is Kodak. Whenever the United States government gave a $700 million grant to Kodak for the creation of pharmaceutical drugs, we should have been down there in their offices the next morning in New York, recruiting them personally, saying, hey, we've got LSU, we've got Southern, we've got Pington Biomedical. We've got the resources for you to come here and succeed in Baton Rouge, and we're going to help you do that. And one thing President Trump has done for us is he's bringing jobs back from overseas. We've got to capitalize on that because there's many industries that are coming back, and we got to ensure we're doing that. But we can't effectively do that until we address crime. And while crime may be down over the last 3 years, what's forgotten is that it's down because 2017 was such a record year. It was such a high year of crime that it's down from that year, but it's still alarmingly high. And we've got to address that. And the only way to adequately do that is to pay our police officers adequate pay, because they're paid 38% below the national average and haven't gotten a raise in 13 years. And what increasing pay does is it helps us recruit better quality candidates. So when we have a tough situation, we have better qualified candidates at the table and at the scene, if you will, dealing with this. And so until we increase our pay and give them the support they need and put an officer in every school, because we know a study that WWL did that in 2019, there were 250 crimes in our schools. And so if we're going to combat this, we've got to get officers in our school to ensure that our kids are safe and our kids are protected. And COVID has shown us that we have to also give our parents and our kids an opportunity to be educated if they don't want to go to school. If their parents feel that it's not safe for them to go to school, we have to have a permanent solution that gives them a permanent technology device to be taught from home and the access to resources and training that they need to do that. And lastly, we have to open our economy. We cannot let government control us and keep us closed, because if you saw yesterday, the business report put out that that because there's a shortfall in the budget now for the Louisiana workers' compensation, it had $1 billion starting in the year. Now it's right under $100 million. And if they don't get federal funding and it doesn't work out, employers are going to have to pay 60% taxes on employees, 60. And that's unaffordable for small businesses, and even for large businesses, it's unaffordable. And so the point being is that government puts such a burden on our businesses that it's making them non-profitable, and a lot of people aren't going to survive this. And we've got to open our economy, because we know in other cities and states it can be done safely while protecting our elderly and our vulnerable. So it's important we reopen our economy. It's important we fix our educational system, which the mayor's office does not oversee directly, but they can have a great dialogue with the school board and the superintendents to ensure that we have a great educational system, because until we fix all that, it's going to be hard to recruit businesses here. So thank you, Exxon, for all you do. And for your continued support of our community. We couldn't do it without you. As mayor president, if I'm elected, I promise that I will definitely have a more friendly business approach. And when we do open the economy, Exxon will be at the table with us to talk about how we're going to do it effectively, but also how we can recruit other industries, because Exxon is a great example of businesses that can thrive and prosper for years to come. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Piazza. Councilman Watson, we will unmute you.
You got me?
We got you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's nice to see you all. It's great to be able to talk with all of your employees that work at Exxon here in town. Had a wonderful opportunity, especially to work with Stephanie and Megan as we work through the industrial tax exemption transition, where the governor pushed down a lot of the decision-making in the municipalities. I realized right away we'd have to come up with some kind of rules locally so that there's predictability for businesses like Exxon, because as you know, we all know that anyone who's going to put in significant amount of dollars, like a multi-million-dollar plant, you need to know well ahead of time if you're going to have a pro-business atmosphere where you're going to put those dollars down. And we want you to put those dollars down, because it's like roots in our community that the more you invest here, the longer you're going to stay. I love working with y'all at Exxon, especially Stephanie. I know you're not the only one, but working with you and the North Baton Rouge Industrial Task Force to raise money to put bulletproof vests on every single officer on Southern University's campus police force. That was a wonderful partnership, and they certainly are very, very thankful that we were able to do that. And that's just part of the charitable giving that I know that Exxon does to stay involved in our community. My name's Matt Watson. I'm not originally from Baton Rouge. I was born in Midland, Michigan. And if you're familiar with Midland, Michigan, it is the world headquarters of Dow Chemical. We also have a gigantic Dow Corning facility in Midland. And talk about a town that understands good pro-business, public-private partnership relationships. That's where I'm from. If Midland were to lose Dow Chemical, the city could just shutter everything up I don't even know if people would be able to sell their homes because I don't know who would even buy them. We've got to have a good relationship with our major industries, with our major employers, Exxon being the largest private employer in this, I believe, in the state. And certainly one of the biggest property taxpayers that we've got here. We've got to have a great relationship with y'all, and I look forward to continue having that. Growing up in Midland, I had family that lived in Flint and Detroit, and to watch what happens when you have or you encourage an anti-business atmosphere, or you have things that happen in the marketplace that make things change for an industry, you see tremendous devastation of communities. Right now, Detroit is starting to make a comeback, but a lot of it is due to Mr. Gilbert from Quicken Loans, and we can't expect to have one person come in and buy up parts of the city for pennies on the dollar and convert things on their own. But we need to work with a lot of folks to be able to do that. And we can't depend solely on government money, because we already have one of the highest sales tax rates in the country right now. We've got a lot of folks that would have tremendous pushback if we raised property tax. So we're going to have to look for money elsewhere through grants, through public-private partnerships, through creation of creative financial instruments to get people to invest in our community, so we can do things like eradicating so many blighted and abandoned buildings that we've got in such high density across North Baton Rouge, the Bottoms, and Gardere area. And everyone knows that there's a positive correlation between living next to those blighted and abandoned buildings and violent crime. In fact, the statistic that keeps coming into my head is if you live in close proximity to a blighted and abandoned building, you are 13 times more likely to die of homicide. We have a terrible crime problem here. Certainly, we can pick and choose what numbers we want to talk about or what crimes we want to talk about, so we can, portray that crime is reduced. But I don't think anyone who's been shot or anyone who's lost a family member to violent crime thinks that we have crime under control in this community. We certainly don't. We need to support our police officers. We need to allow our police officers to proactively engage in our community and communicate with members of our community so they know what crimes are happening in their neighborhoods. Not that they need to be told, because they know full well. All of my work that I do in 705, 702, and 707, I keep hearing over and over again, we've got the handcuffs on the wrong people. We need to take them off the police and get out there and stop this crime from happening. It certainly doesn't work in your favor when you're going to Houston to try to say that Baton Rouge is a great place to make investments. So we need to get a control over crime. We need to have a very positive business environment, a cooperative business environment here with government. We need to take care of drainage and everything else that's going to affect the lives of the great hardworking men and women that work for Exxon. So that's exactly what type of administration that I would bring, is boots on the ground, practical solutions to things that we need to get done here, because the primary reason that government exists is to keep people safe, whether it's to keep you physically safe or keep the property that you've been able to accrue or your rental home with all your property in it. It's the government's job to protect folks, and we have not been doing that, and we need to get out there and make sure that this happens. So my name's Matt Watson. I look forward to your questions, and thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you, Councilman Watson. Now you guys can blame me. Mr. Carter was in another pool. He was in the attendee pool, but we have promoted him to panelist now. So he was out of order. However, he is here and ready to share his vision.
Put back the other pool, please.
So former State Representative Steve Carter, you may have your 5 minutes now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And Denise, thank you. I can't wait to go back to the pool with you. I want to thank all the Exxon employees and also for Exxon for hosting this event. Also want to thank all of the candidates for qualifying, and I want to wish them the very best of luck. As a side note, my dad received the first PhD ever given at LSU. And the interesting thing about it is the only job he ever had was at Exxon. That was the first job he had and the last job he had. He retired from Exxon. Just as a information about myself, I'm a lifelong resident of Baton Rouge. With the exception of 5 years I had in the Air Force, were 5 great years. I've been married for 43 years to my wife, Gloria. We have 2 wonderful children, and I have 4 grandchildren. I served as an associate athletic director at LSU and also as tennis coach. And I served in the legislature for 12 years, and with 12 great years working with people like Denise and also Sharon. Like many of you, I'm tired of watching the place I call home for my entire life deteriorate into a city that my granddaughters don't feel safe. They don't feel safe going outside. They don't feel safe playing in the yard. I'm tired of watching innocent children the same age as my youngest granddaughter be gunned down in our streets. In fact, a personal note, I was campaigning for the legislature in 2007. I grew up on Longwood Drive. I was coming out of a home from knocking on doors, and a car drove up behind me, and I looked at them, and they stuck a gun out right into my face and said, "I want everything you've got." I was petrified. I was trembling. I don't want other people to have to experience the same thing I did with that. In fact, probably for 3 weeks, I had nightmares over it, and that's not healthy. Our city needs something different. We need a leader with the courage to crack down on crime and drugs, a leader who can create jobs and repair our devastated economy, a unifier who can bring our communities together, someone who can work across the aisle to tackle issues like improving education and creating more opportunities for East Baton Rouge. I've worked side by side with teachers, small business owners, and some of the most influential leaders in industry in our community. As a veteran of the United States Air Force, I learned what it meant to lead when leadership most mattered. As a legislator, I created and chaired the Capital Region Legislative Delegation, where it brought legislators of all different political views together and helped solve issues facing the people of the Capital Region. I also chaired the House Education Committee and served as vice chair of the House Transportation Committee. I'm the only candidate in this race with that kind of experience. It takes courage to do the right thing. Not all of the time, and not just when it's politically convenient, but it takes courage to make very bold, tough decisions, and I'm willing to do that. I think that's the right thing to do as a leader. You're not going to be popular doing them, but that's the way it goes. But in your heart of hearts, if you think it's the right thing to do, you must step forward and do them. I'm Steve Carter. I'm running for East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor President because I have the courage. We need to move Baton Rouge forward. I'm thanking you very much for allowing me to be here today, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you so much, Representative Carter. Rory will start us off with our first question.
We will ask this question. We will start in reverse order, and we will let you speak for 1 to 2 minutes about the question, give an answer. So we had one question submitted was, how can employees from ExxonMobil and others in our community engage to help improve the Baton Rouge's biggest challenges like blight, crime, quality education, choice for students? So as a future leader, how do you better plan to engage our citizens? And we'll start with Steve.
A great question. And that's one thing that I feel like I do a pretty good job with is unifying people. I enjoy people. I love everyone. And I like to have them. I don't have all the answers. So therefore, I've got to go to people like you at Exxon and say, if you were in our shoes, give me some suggestions. Don't tell me the problem, but give me some suggestions as how we solve the problem. I believe the community effort, community involvement is the way to go about doing it. But we can't do that unless people speak up. Unless people in the community tell their leaders, listen, we've got a problem here. We have a blight problem here. I was in Scotlandville the other day, and it's shocking the amount of blight that's up there. And in talking to the people, it's a shame that they have so much, prostitution, drugs, whatever it might be, in these blighted homes. We need to put a department together within City Parish that deals directly with blight. I know in New Orleans, they've hired 2 attorneys that are there full time, and that's what we need to do to try to resolve the blight problem. But again, it takes community effort. It takes people within the community talking with people, visiting with people, and ensuring that we know where the problem is, and so we can go in as leaders and resolve the problem within their community.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carter. We will go next to, I think it's Matt. I'm unmuting you. There you go.
You got me? Well, first of all, we do need to engage the citizens. We absolutely have to. And what we need to do is we need to go out and communicate directly with, I heard a phrase one time, the quiet voices, those people who are in a community that you need to go out to and speak with them rather than the folks that necessarily almost always come forward because they've got an idea that may at times just be self-serving. We need to go speak with the folks who right now from somebody that just turned off. She's talking about a blighted building that's on convention that she's been complaining about for years, that she can't get any remedy for. It's a blighted building. There's no occupancy permit for it. They've been stealing electricity, and it's ruining what's going on for her rental houses that she's got near there. And this is a single mom who cuts hair, and she purchased a rental house and then another rental house through adjudicated property to try to add to her income. And she's having a whole lot of problem because government's not doing what it should do in tearing down blighted and condemned buildings. But I've been working with the 7805 Community Action Team for over 2 years. This is not something I started doing just because I'm cramming for a test at election time, but something I've been doing outside of my district, working with people side by side. And in doing so, those folks know what they need to have done in their community. Tearing down blighted and abandoned buildings, they need to have the actual infrastructure, and I don't mean infrastructure like creating a highway or improving the sewer system. Those things we need to do, but removing dangerous buildings. Some things as simple as repainting the stripes and the arrows like I got done around St. Gerard Church because we had dangerous traffic situations over there. Replacing streetlights like I've done up by talking to the late great Principal Reginald over at Istruma High School. He had been asking for a long time to get streetlights replaced because he had students that when they walked to school in the wintertime early or left after school after extracurricular activities in the winter, they were walking in the dark and it was just not safe for them. So you've got to go out and engage and make yourself available. Go spend more than 15 minutes a month talking to people in the community and welcoming people always to have good conversation and take notes and go out and put groups together, but don't think that just by putting a group together you've solved a problem. You've got to take practical action from what you've gained from having the group together, or no one's going to want to bother having another group with you because they see it as just talk.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just about to stop you. I see you're at a stopping point. Next up will be Jordan. On question, I'm going to unmute you. We can try to keep closer to 2 minutes so we can have another question. All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me. So simply put, it goes back to what I'm saying about having to open our economy. We've got to put a plan together to have a small, short-term, medium-term, and a long-term plan. And how we do that is bringing folks like Exxon and different business leaders in the community to the table so that we can really have a sustainable plan that has our community leaders and also our residents engaged in this discussion and how we're going to address the problem. Blight has been a problem my entire life. Like I said, born and raised here in Baton Rouge. It's been here for 30 years. The way we're going to address this is stop electing career politicians that don't get the job done. And that's what keeps happening. We have the same folks in office and they're not doing any different results. And we expect different, and that's mere insanity. So how we address that problem effectively is change our leadership, because a lot has changed over the last decade. Since the 60s when the government was written, the way business is done is not the same as it was back then. So it takes new leadership with new innovative ways to really get the job done. And we've got to address this this issue continuously and with preventative maintenance. That's an issue that we see that's not happening, is that we've got a lot of issues that can be prevented if we were addressing it regularly, but we seem to put out fires rather than prevent them. And so we've got to get a plan together that addresses this proactively. And there's a way for communities and citizens to get involved in that process. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be on the citizens to have to address that or bring it to light, because we have $1 billion budget. And so we've got the money, we got the funds. We just know that based off the recent survey that shows that we're 138th, 150 out of quality city services, it's because we aren't doing a great job with our money. And that's not just the mayor's office, that's the council as well, because they approved that budget. But we've got to do a better job of addressing this. And the only way it's going to happen is with new leadership. And that's why I'm excited that the council has got so many seats turning over, because I'm optimistic that they'll have some new blood and new energy to really put a plan together that's going to help address this issue long term. And again, blight's been an issue for a long time, and I think the best way for the citizens and residents to really address this problem and get involved is we don't need you on the streets helping us, because you don't see other cities and states that are real beautiful having their residents out cleaning the road. We pay high taxes. We shouldn't have to do that as residents. We have to work hard every day to survive. So we shouldn't have to go home and on the weekends clean up because the Department of Public Works or with different administrations are shorthanded and not getting the job done. But the way we're going to do that, the best way for folks at Exxon and different individuals in the community to ensure that changes is electing new officials that are not career politicians. And most of my candidates my opponents have been in office for a long term, and that's why we are in the spot we're in today. And if we're going to get out of this spot, we've got to change the landscape. So that's why I've gotten in this race and hoping to bring some new energy and innovative ideas on how we're going to approach this.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Miss Marcel. I'm unmute you. Got it? Okay. Let's see.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I am a lifelong resident of Baton Rouge, not a lifelong politician, talking to Piazza. But anyway, let me start by saying, as a member of the Metro Council, I face these issues over and over again. I do represent the 70802, 70805, 70806 areas, and the blight is not just there, it's all over. What I learned when I came on to the council is my predecessors hung their hats on the fact that they were tearing down buildings or tearing down homes. And what that left us with was thousands and thousands of lots that we cannot maintain. We do not have the staff to maintain them. We just don't have the money to continue to cut lots every single 2 weeks like you should do it even once a month. So one of the things we've got to be is innovative. When we talk about bringing in other partners as Exxon or whomever that is, whatever business that is, we've got to look at some of these buildings, such as I've done with the Council on Aging new building at 1701 Main Street. When I was on the Metro Council, myself and William Daniels looked at it, found that it was adjudicated, worked to get those adjudications and those tax liens cleared off of that property, and then be very intentional about what we put there. So if you very, very soon you will be able to go into the Council on Aging building at 1701 Main Street. And I know that's one building at a time, but that's how we have to fix it. We've got to be able to look at, if I was in the mayor's office, I would do it on a larger scale, a larger level. We've got to look at these buildings and find a purpose for them to put them back into commerce, find public-private partnerships in order to put the monies in there so that we can keep the buildings and not tear down every building. Or when it comes to the homes, we have to have a program where we can come in and repair those homes and put those homes back into commerce rather than tearing them down and not having anyone who's willing to come back into our communities and build new houses other than Habitat for Humanity. And there are a few others, but not many. So when we talk about blight, we have to be innovative in our thinking. The fire station on 38th Street is another example of where I worked to get that building away from city parish, just sitting there blighted like all the other fire stations. They wanted to tear it down. I saw something else in it. You have to be a visionary when it comes to blight. And I intend to do that on a larger level when I'm elected mayor president.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And last but not least, we have Mayor Broom. Unmute. There you go.
Thank you. Community service is part of the fabric of any city, of any community. It's government working together with like-minded individuals, whether it's in your neighborhood, your congregations, your civic associations, your social clubs, or with businesses like Exxon Mobil. I can remember that I stood up a nonprofit organization, a community development organization, actually, with one of the former employees of Exxon Mobil, Dave Garner. Dave worked with me, Ronnie Edwards, Willie Hawkins, and we stood up Urban Restoration Enhancement Corporation, which is still making an impact in this community today, not only with issues around blight, but just community development. And in fact, one of the first projects that UREC did was a blighted property, putting it back into commerce on Greenwell Street. And so partnerships are vitally important in moving a city and a parish forward. That's why last year we implemented a program called Operation Fresh Start. We do this on a quarterly basis to address blight, litter in our community. And guess what? Community partners look forward to joining us in that process as city parish government. And so as a result of that, we've moved tons of debris, we've moved tons of blight, and then city parish government, after we give neighborhoods that fresh start, then city parish government goes back and continues on a scheduled basis to deal with those particular areas. But we all know that government alone can't solve the challenges that we have. It takes community partners like Exxon. It takes community partners like other businesses that come out with us on our Operation Fresh Start days, like Capital Bank. And I could go on, the list goes on and on and on. So I believe that a community that has stakeholders who have a heart to serve their community should be afforded those opportunities. And we do recognize that the strength, the sustainability of communities means that all of us have to work together to make that happen.
Thank you, Mayor Broom. We have another question from our employees, and we will start this round of questions with Jordan. Let's make sure that we are staying on our 1 to 2 minutes for these answers, and then we will wrap up so that we can make sure that we give you your time back. The question is, the current local government appears polarized and gridlocked primarily along racial lines on a number of important issues. What will you do to improve race relations and eradicate any institutionalized racism so we can move united to tackle the numerous issues confronting the city parish? Mr. Piazza?
Yep, can you hear me? Sorry about that. Yeah, so to address those issues, you know, what we've got to do is have transparency in all departments. So we've got to have a better conversation at the table. We're bringing folks of all walks of life to the table and ensuring that they're held accountable to the different methods of government. So to address, you know, relations, one thing I'm proud to say is that my business partner is a gentleman of another race, and who I work along great with, and I've seen obviously how things have affected him versus how they've affected me, and there's definitely a difference, and that is because of how you know, equality is in the parish. And so to address equality effectively, we got to start, I keep saying education. Opportunity is what's going to be key to address this. It's not a rubber stamp, one size fits all solution that we can roll out nationwide that's going to fix this issue. You've got to look at it at each parish and each zone and see what the real issues are, and education is a big issue. It's something that has been an issue for a long time. It's why Baker, Central, Zachary, and now St. George have wanted to leave the city, you know, among other things, obviously. But we got to address education, because we know when we fix education and that people have the opportunity and they're safe at school and they're safe at home and safe in the neighborhoods, we know that other businesses that
Uh-oh. This is very typical in today's virtual world, right?
And when you have equality and opportunity, you're addressing the issue. And until we do that, we're never going to address this real issue. And I think we have to stop promoting people based on how they look. And it's got to be promoted based on what qualifies them the most. Because when you do that, you get poor results sometimes. And we got to go for the best and stop looking at these issues that are dividing us as a nation. And so I think when we have better opportunities, better education, and we address this crime, I think it's going to, it really is going to tackle the problem and ensure that there's an opportunity for all across the entire parish.
Thank you so much. Mr. Councilman Watson.
There we go. Thank you for the question. I'll tell you, one of the great ways that we can start working to bring our community together, because I'll step back a second and say there's a whole lot more that unites us as a community than divides us. As I go out and I speak with people, no matter where they are in the parish, they're kind of united in being dissatisfied with what they're receiving, either from government, from the national economy, the local economy, or what they feel like should be getting from their local taxes or the high amount of crime. So there's a lot of agreement across any imagined or racial or sex or any kind of difference you want to try to find in people. I think there's a lot more that brings us together, because, you know, one of the things that government can do immediately is areas that have been historically disenfranchised. You look at, let's just talk about North Baton Rouge. That's an area that if we had equitable spending in that area, and they may not need the same things those dollars are spent on in another part of the parish. But we talk about, you know, you repair the sidewalks, you fix the infrastructure, and you remove the condemnations. And I'll tell you, spending those dollars, because condemnations aren't just a building that doesn't look nice. These are dangerous structures that people are telling me they're tired of living next to, because it's dangerous. It's attracting crime. I don't know how many people have told me about mice and snakes and stuff coming from high grass that's not being taken care of. But if we create programs that assist what the municipality could do, Representative Marcel brought up that if we tear buildings down, we have a liability afterwards to mow those. I see that as an opportunity. The mayor's budget has $200,000 in it for summer work program that we could create a Blight to Bright program where we hire kids in the areas to go out and almost do a lawn mowing of Uber, so we can create some entrepreneurs, teach financial literacy, give them a job, and making that, empowering folks so they feel like they're part of our economy and that government cares about them. And I think that would go a whole long way to bringing people together.
Okay. Thank you so much, Councilman Watson. Mayor Broome.
Yes, you know, bringing people together, the issue of race in our community. I believe that if we're going to be the community that we want, not only for ourselves, but we desire for our children, our grandchildren, those who are not even here, that we have to be willing to press beyond our respective comfort zones and pre-existing mindsets to create a space to wrestle with the subject of race. And we have to be honest about its correlation to so much of life in Baton Rouge. You know, all of us, I believe, love this place, but if we love it, we're going to have to be willing to do the hard work of fighting for the life that we know this place provides for us in its best moments. And so what does that mean? That means we got to push back against those who would seek to divide us by their words or their actions. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, political affiliations or your social allegiances. I am referring to this growing mindset that demands that we pick a side, that we go to our respective corners, and that we remain permanent adversaries. I will not accept that as the mayor president. I reject this framing of life in Baton Rouge. When I first became mayor president, you know, one of the ways that I thought to bring us together across racial lines, across political affiliations, was to worship with people in their respective places of worship. Since then, when I took office, I've been consistently talking about the issues of equity and inclusion. Exxon knows firsthand, almost 25 years ago or more, I did consulting work for Exxon on the issue of diversity training. And so we're still talking about that today, but we have moved the needle in terms of equity and inclusion with disparity studies, and now with our Commission on Racial Equity and Inclusion, which is made up and involves people from all walks of life, diverse ethnicities, intergenerational involvement. And so you have to be very intentional, and we cannot deceive ourselves as a community around issues of systemic and institutional racism.
Thank you, Mayor Broome. Representative Carter.
Yes, ma'am. As I understand, this is a two-pronged question. The first question was with the lack of unity on the council. And I attributed a lot of that when I was in the legislature. When you'd have a bill, you would discuss the bill ahead of time. You would talk to people. You'd see where they're going to vote, what their problems are if they're not going to vote for it, what have you. So communication is critical. When you're on the council, each council member has been voted in by their constituents, and they have things that they'd like to see accomplished, you know, on the council. So you need to sit down as mayor and with all of the council and talk to them about what their priorities are, what their needs are. And in return, I'll do the same thing of what my priorities, what my needs are. The communication is the key to making sure that you have unity on the council. The second part of the question, as I understand it, was a racial divide. And that's something that's always tugged at my heart. I love everyone. I don't understand why everybody doesn't love everyone, but that's just me. You know, if you take Florida Boulevard and you take that as a dividing line, what we need to do is to take people like myself and other people and go up into certain areas above Florida Boulevard, and let's communicate and talk. You know, you may have a single parent who lives on Hollywood who works at the Lady of the Lake. Their concern is transportation. How do they get to work? On the other side of the coin, on our side, as you say, of Florida Boulevard, you have people that are talking about taxes. I mean, those are two wide varieties of problem areas. And until you understand and live in the feet of the people who you're trying to resolve the problems with and understand what their needs are, you can't resolve them. So you have to meet, you have to talk, you have to visit. You also need to assist the people, particularly in North Baton Rouge, on understanding what their opportunities are. How can they go about getting a loan? How do they fill out the reports and stuff that you have to do that a lot of times it just gets people so frustrated they don't want to get involved in it? What do you need to do if you have an idea to implement your idea? So we need to communicate. We need to talk. We need to bring people together. We need to get people within the community that are respected to go in and talk to people and say, this is how I did it. You can do it, but this is how you need to do it to help them. So the whole point of me saying this is, with the two situations, one, what's the problem with the council and the mayor, and what's the problem with the racial divide? Again, it's getting to know people, getting to visit, talk to people, see what their needs are, work together, compromise, and solve problems.
Thank you so much, Representative Carter. And State Representative Marcel. Let's get you off mute.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, I would have to agree about the Metro Council. I believe that if you're going to address the divide on the race on the Metro Council, one of the things you got to do is meet with them. You got to communicate with them. As Mayor President, I will certainly meet with them at least quarterly unless there was an issue that may come up that I would have to meet with them on besides those quarterly meetings. So I think those conversations need to happen. What I believe are some of the issues with the racial divide in Baton Rouge is the systemic issues that face people that are north of Florida Boulevard. A lot of that cannot be ignored, can't just be constantly studied, but we do need to bring people together, whether it's ExxonMobil or other industries, or the community themselves. We certainly have to bring people together. As a state representative, I've been able to work across the lines to get bills passed that others have not been able to get passed. And people ask me, how was I able to do that? And because I believe at the end of the day, when we sit at the table together and I find out the things that you're concerned with and the things that I'm concerned with, and we can find a happy medium somewhere in between that, and we can kind of work it out. Now, that doesn't always happen, but at the end of the day, all of us want a good education for our children. We want safe roads to travel on, and we want the crime rate to go down. So we have to find the common grounds that so often divide us, and we cannot put up with the hard words and harsh words from people in the climate that we're in. I think social media makes it difficult now because it's easy for people to sit behind a board and just lash out at people and call them names, and it's so unfortunate. I think that we have to continue to communicate and not just plan, but we have to get into action items, right? So when I was on the Metro Council, we passed a DBE component that still has not been implemented. It's been studied, and it's been studied to death. At the end of the day, we've got to move forward with a DBE plan that includes women and minority-owned businesses, and certainly I support veterans as well getting those contracts. The question becomes, what is the percentage of business that the city is currently doing with the DBEs? And that is extremely low. In my opinion, it's unacceptable. And those are the types of things that we can look at and figure out, how do we change the racial divide in Baton Rouge and bring people together rather than pulling them apart.
Thank you.
All right, we will have 1 minute for closing each. I am going to put my finger up so that we can try to stick close to our time. We're at 11:33, so I've asked our attendees to please stick with us for a few more minutes. So we'll just give one closing. I think I'll just go back in alphabetical order to make it the easiest. So we'll start with Mayor Broome. I'll give you 1 minute for closing. I think I've unmuted you. Yep. Okay.
Thank you once again for the opportunity to share with the Exxon employees. You know, it's been said that our ability to handle life challenges is a measure of our strength of character. And I have adopted the theme of transformative leadership in trying times. We've responded to the challenges placed in front of us without losing sight of the vision that we cast in our historic campaign in 2016. That keen focus on our vision has produced the trend-setting MOVE EBR initiative. It has produced economic development wins in disinvested communities like the How Place initiative. We've addressed the drainage concerns that have plagued us for years, increased healthcare access for all of our community, and we've made our city and parish a more equitable and inclusive place to live. And so I stand here 4 years later to say the seeds that we have planted to transform this parish are growing. The work and strategic vision that has been implemented won't last for a moment or just patch the problem, but it is transformative work that will last for generations to come. And so it's this leadership that will continue to respond to the needs of our community in an effective manner and simultaneously prepare us for our future that is needed to keep Baton Rouge moving forward. So please join me in 4 years forward as your mayor president. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Next up will be Representative Steve Carter.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for allowing us to visit with y'all today. As I mentioned in my opening, I've lived here all of my life, but I'm very concerned about the direction that the city's going right now. I'm concerned about the crime. I'm concerned about the drainage. I'm concerned about the economic development. I think we can do a lot better job with that, bring businesses here. I really think that we have an opportunity to move this city and parish forward. I have the courage to do it, have the boldness to do it. I'm not going to satisfy everybody, but that's just the way that it goes. I'm willing to go visit with as many people as I can to come up with whatever ideas that they have that they feel like this is the most important thing for our city, and we'll prioritize those and move forward. We have assets that very few cities have. You know, at one time, Austin and Nashville and what have you were compared to Baton Rouge. Now, they're not even compared with us at all. We're falling behind. It's time for us to move forward, to be bold, and I'm the one I believe that can get the city moving in the right direction. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next up will be Representative Marcel.
Unmute.
There you go. You're unmuted.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for allowing us to have this webinar today, and thank you all for the participants who are watching to see who you want to choose as your next leader in this parish. I believe that you need an innovative leader, someone who's not afraid to stand up and lead. I've led by example. I can say that on this, of the candidates, I'm sure that I'm the only one that you have seen year-round continuously working in the community all the time, regardless of whether I'm running or not. I do not wait until I'm running for something to be seen in the community. I'm involved in the community. I'm in the thread of the community. I'm consistently working to make sure that everything is better for not only my district, but throughout the state of Louisiana. I passed legislation that required the Office of Motor Vehicle to return the driver's license back to people, allowing them to get back to work all over the state of Louisiana because they had to put up a payment plan. Now, for the life of me, I could not understand why that had not been done in many years before I showed up at the Capitol, but that was one of the first pieces of legislation that I passed. And I passed those types of legislation that affect people, that help people to get back to work. I certainly passed Ban the Box that allows people to work for the state of Louisiana without checking that box. I think that the leadership that I've shown, not only on the Metro Council as I passed the body camera provision, which requires all Baton Rouge City police officers to wear those body cameras, I think I've shown that leadership. I ask for your support as your mayor president of East Baton Rouge Parish as I lead this city forward.
Next up, we have Mr. Piazza.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me get my. All right.
All right. It's muted again.
You're muted again. Okay, there you go. Now you're
Thanks
unmuted.
again, Exxon, for having us today, and for all those that are attending. Baton Rouge, needs to be, East Baton Rouge Parish needs to be more pro-business. And as a small business owner, I can speak to that in every extent you can think of. And as someone who's started businesses and who's worked for the community and has had to recruit and attract customers and talent to work for us, I understand that we have got to invest in education because we have to build a quality workforce. And so, if elected mayor president, my commitment is that we're going to open the economy, and we're going to do so safely, but we're going to do it promptly because we have to get our people back to work. We're going to invest in our law enforcement to ensure the safety of all of our residents and citizens. We're going to build a bridge and a loop, but we're not going to pay for it. We're going to have the folks that are traveling through our city pay for it as they do in other cities and states. The people from Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida that are going to use our highways, they're going to help with a toll, and public-private partnerships pay for this, so we're not relying on government or have to tax our taxpayers any further to cause more burden. We don't need more taxes, we need more taxpayers, and we got to provide more opportunities for our youth, so we're going to retain our people here in Baton Rouge. And we do that by improving our educational system, by improving access to resources, and recruiting businesses that want to grow here like Exxon has for so long and continues to. So I hope that you'll consider voting for me on November 3rd, and I look forward to working with the parish to build a better future for Baton Rouge.
Thank you. And our last closing from Councilman Watson.
Yes, thank you again for having me, and I want to speak directly to all the hardworking men and women who work at Exxon and all the hardworking folks that are your contractors that work inside your facilities. I have always advocated for Exxon, Georgia Pacific, Honeywell, whenever anyone that's in our industrial sector that we depend on so much, and so many other businesses, either upstream or downstream, depend on you so much. We need to make sure that Houston keeps wanting to send money to this location. I want to make sure that your jobs are protected, that Exxon continues to grow, that we do it in an equitable way, that we're not giving away the farm because Exxon doesn't want to have anything for free. They're certainly going to get a tax incentive for when they make a capital investment here, and we want to make sure that we incentivize that. So we're not only competing against Texas, but now even competing against West Baton Rouge and Ascension Parish and Livingston Parish. But to those of you who work in this plant that don't live in East Baton Rouge Parish, I want to make sure that when you travel over here, you not only have a job to work at, quality job that you already have with Exxon or with a contractor, but you feel safe when you come here, that you talk to folks that live here that are happy when they live here with the job and the life that they have here. And that's exactly what I want to do as your next mayor president. So I've got the experience to go out and make the positive, practical changes on the ground to change the way that we live our lives and our quality of place and fight for business and fight for your job. Thank you so much for having me, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of ExxonMobil, we want to thank you all for participating in today's forum. We know you have busy schedules, so we appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. Employees, that even those that didn't attend today, we will have this recorded session available for future viewing. So we're very glad that you were able to join us today. And we this concludes our forum. So if everyone will have a wonderful day, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.